Let's take it back to earlier this year. Let's go February. My phone kept dying more often than it did when I first got it. And so I had thought to myself, hey, I've had a couple iPods and other iPhones that I've replaced the batteries on. Let's replace the battery. So I got a new battery, took it out, put the new one in, turned it back on, and I lost my touchscreen. I could not touch it at all. I could see it, couldn't touch it. So then I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's just take the screen off, put it back on, connect cords. Then I just lost the screen. So I bought another screen, put that screen on, still the same problem, no touch screen, but I can see it. And so I thought it might actually be a phone problem. So I go to the Apple store and I get it looked at. Luckily for me, it was the oldest model that they currently are about to stop servicing, the iPhone XS Max. They told me that because I replaced the battery and the screen, I would have to replace those with Apple specific parts and have to pay them for it, that it would be $400 to even figure it out what the problem is. I came down to the conclusion that it was the motherboard problem. I would just have to replace the whole motherboard. But in talking with their tech team, they told me that replacing the motherboard doesn't get you your data back. Luckily enough for me, I didn't save anything to the cloud. I didn't back anything up on my MacBook because my MacBook's just old. So I lost everything on that phone. I had thousands of photos and videos, stuff I was filming in the background, messages, phone numbers, notes, all of my lyrics that I've ever written for years, gone. App game progresses. So I lost everything on the phone. So then let's fast forward to June. I had recently at that point had gotten a little bit of money because work had been doing pretty well. And I thought, hey, let's upgrade the computer so then my stuff can be faster and better and just alpha computer. What I decided to do was I bought memory sticks so that my computer can work with things faster. I got a bigger hard drive because at that point I was running out of storage. Yes, after 10 years of being on YouTube, I've almost run out of storage. 9 terabytes of storage available. I also thought that with all of this stuff being upgraded, the thing that's been lacking is a power supply. But then I ran into this little issue called Windows. So here's the setup. I have a 1 terabyte hard drive, an 8 terabyte hard drive. I just bought another 8 terabyte hard drive to replace the 1 terabyte. On the 1 terabyte hard drive is where everything pretty much was located as my day-to-day files and stuff. So whatever I was working at that time, all of my applications, stuff for thumbnails, so on and so on. What I wanted to do was transfer everything from the 1 into the empty 8 and then just call it a day. That's not how that works. So I copied everything over. I reconnected and connected everything that I was supposed to do. And then it said that I wasn't compatible with Windows 11, that I needed to change some settings, that it wouldn't tell me what to change. And after a month and a half to 2 months of research, I finally figured out Windows 11, but I lost everything on that 1 terabyte hard drive. So all of my thumbnails for 10 years of doing YouTube, gone. My application file pre-saves and stuff, gone. Videos that I was working on at that time, gone. Luckily, my old files were on the other 8 terabyte that I hadn't been talking about. But at that point, I almost lost it because in configuring the cords and whatnot, I had unplugged the one that had all the files in while the computer was live. Don't do that. It almost made it look like I lost everything. But luckily, I changed all the cords back and it brought all my stuff back. I was working on Editor Reacts to the Trench album and Editor Reacts to the Death of Slim Shady. Trench, an hour and a half long, a record session. The Death of Slim Shady, 3.5 hours. And a whole music video gone out of that. Luckily, I did not delete the footage from the SD card. So the only way that I have been able to save the video is the camera. Sound quality wise, it's gonna be ass. I apologize. There's no way around that. As of recording this, I have edited Trench. I'm almost done with it. And then I still have to do Death of Slim Shady. But there's that. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. I got in my car and I started up and then the whole thing started shaking. And I'm like, that's not good. Pull out of the driveway, I go down to the stop sign and I turn right and then it just stops. And I'm like, huh. What proceeded was every single time that I had gotten into my car to start it after an extended amount of time that I hadn't been driving it, it would just shake. misfiring. So I had my roommates who were both mechanics put their Snap-on scanner and it said cylinder 2 was misfiring. What they decided to do was take spark plug 2 and replace that into 1 and put 1 into 2 to see if it's spark plug or the hole that it connects into. I'm not a big car guy. This is just kind of what it was explained to me. A couple days go by, it's misfiring worse. It was a spark plug. We replaced the spark plug, but in replacing the spark plug, in the hole that cylinder 2 was whatever, it was leaking coolant, which is not good. So then that tells me it's a gasket problem and that I need a new engine. Drove 2 hours to go look at a car, had them look at it. They put their scanner up to it and it said that all of my cylinders were misfiring. 2 was worse and that it wouldn't start. There has been history of it not starting. They said that if I continue driving like this, they don't think I would make it home. Oh, and it was taking on coolant like a month. Where's the coolant going? I don't know. There is no leak underneath it. Where is it going in my car? Who knows? So here's some numbers. I pay $380 a month for this car. I had $9,000 left. Here was my plan, was to take my car, trade it in. Hopefully they'll overlook the engine problem and just put whatever the car is worth into the new car and then I just pay a little bit more. The dealership told me there's $6,000 worth of issues and your car is worth $6,000. It's not profitable to them. If they were to even decide to do anything with it, realistically, they'd only get $50 in auction for it. If I want to trade in, I cannot do it on a used car, but I can do it in a new car with like 2,000 miles on it because the bank will not allow $9,000 worth of negative equity onto a used car. My payment would go from $380 to $800, $900 a month. Option 1. Option 2, I can get the used car I was looking at outright on its own without a trade-in, and I'd have 2 payments, which would end up being about the same amount because I was looking at another car that was $16,000. Option 3 is I can skip out on getting a new car, attempt to drive it back home, and then wait it out and maybe get like a cheapo Facebook Marketplace car while I then try and fix up my car and then do all that stuff. Option 4 was we had a spare car. We can try and fix that, but also that car has about $3,000 worth of problems. I had then decided at first, new car, trade in, get me out of the situation. They were trying to get me sign stuff. I signed some stuff and they're trying to go to different banks to try and figure out accepting the loan. They would not tell me how much this new car was at all. This paper that he had me sign, he was like waving it around and I saw the back of it, $24,000. Fuck no. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to pay fucking $35,000 for a car that's not even worth 20. I thought about it. I was like, you know what? If I can even eventually fix it, I would rather have 2 cars than to have 1 car with a giant payment. So I got the used car. I drove the new car home. The next day, brought someone with me to go pick up my car. Drove it to my mom's house because she wanted to make it all about her. Then she took it to a shop and they smoked out my engine, no longer drivable. My mom at that point was like, we can't store it here. We're gonna have to figure out something. And I'm like, great, just what I fucking wanted. I had like 3 or 4 other opinions who are all mechanics, and there were scanners telling me that it was an engine problem, but she didn't trust anybody. And now I have to pay for a tow truck to drive 2 hours because it can't drive. So I have effectively lost thousands of photos and videos, some of them being projects I was working on, some of it being behind the scenes for Stuck and maybe some part 2 stuff. There's that. I lost my computer files, and I lost my car. There's also one more thing I've lost too. Since November of last year, I have officially lost 40 pounds. If I continue on the trajectory that I'm currently on, I will have lost 50 pounds by the time 1 year comes around. I'll make a separate video talking about how I lost the weight. Most of that was in the last 4 months. But here's the thing. In loss, there is some win. I did get a new phone. I did upgrade all of my stuff. I technically didn't lose that much because a lot of it was having to look at old files and then copying over presets from specific projects. And I have another car. So, and also I've lost all this weight. And still no bitches. Oh yeah, I gotta cry. I lost everything. That might work.